Hey guys! In this part 7 we are finally starting the lighting and look depth of those crystals. So let's dive in. So the first thing is we're gonna set up an error slide for key light. Right now we are in high quality and I think it offers like a decent preview of this light. So we're gonna position it mostly on the side of these crystals. One way to control it would be to go and look through this light. Don't forget to enable the lock so that we can actually move it. And yeah, here we can pretty much control the position. We're gonna go into the Redshift tab and launch the IPR. So Redshift is setting up a few nodes for us and creating its own camera, Cam1, and we don't want that. We're gonna go into the Redshift rope and specify that we wanna use the render cam that we set in the past lesson. So this time I'm actually launching Redshift's render view, which got more tool than mplay, and it's gonna allow us to, for example, do a crop region overall render. So right now not much happened because it's so fast, but if we go and change the light, it will affect the intensity just on this region, which can be very convenient when we get to something more heavy. So for now, I'm just gonna do the most basic changes on my light, which is the intensity, and we could also play with the shape of the light. In my case, I was pretty happy with the rectangle, but feel free to try any of these. You can also use a mesh as the light. So spread is the most important parameter within the light. It's controlling how directional is your light. So a value around 0 would make sharp shadows and very crisp light, while a value around 1 would tend to diffuse everything really and get very soft shadows. So I'm pretty happy with a value around 0.5. One thing we notice though is the hair of our fiber is not rendering. There's a little trick that we need to take in account when we deal with hair, is that inside the hair gen, we need to go into the render tab and change the hair generation into use SOP geometry. Now, if we try to launch the render again, we should be able to see the fibers. So it's pretty dark right now, but we can definitely see our fibers. Pressing H on keyboard would let you flip horizontally your picture, and I like to do that because it kind of gives you some different perspective over your composition, so I like to flip it from time to time. Redshift proposed different solutions in terms of GI. Photon map is kind of a deprecated one though. If you ever knew mental way, you know how fun it can be. Then irradiance cache is more an optimized way to cache the GI. I like to use this solution a lot to speed up rendering of animation sequences. We'll talk more about that in another video. For this tutorial, we're gonna keep it brute force like Arnold or Octane would do. All of a sudden, the bounce of the light are making everything much brighter and much more realistic. So that will help a lot. Since we are going for a studio kind of lighting, we will need to enable the GI. It's not always the case. I mean, sometimes you don't necessarily need like secondary bounce or anything, but in that case, GI will help a lot. I'm gonna leave the brute force GI raise to 16 for now, and let's move on. So this is the key light that we created. We can, of course, tweak it a bit and adapt it to this GI. So what we notice is now with the render view, we would need to specify the camera. Otherwise, it would just use whatever view you're looking at inside the viewport. All right, tweaking the position of my light. I think that direction is pretty nice. From here, it's basically photography skills and having fun with the light. So I'm gonna try and change the scale of my area light, see how it affects the lighting. So it's looking much diffuse and brighter, so I'm gonna decrease the intensity. Let's have another look at the spread just in case. Well, if we are going too low, we are losing some light over the set that I think was pretty interesting, mostly because this shadow was in the same direction than the crystal. So in terms of composition, it's bringing something interesting, I think. All right, could play with the color. So in my case, let's go for something a bit warm. If you prefer using physical values like temperature, you can always switch that to temperature and reduce the temperature for a warmer color, while a higher value would give you some cooler results. Okay, I'm gonna create another light now. So let's move it. Right now it's super bright. And I'm gonna set it on the other side of the crystal. I'm gonna go for some colder colors. All right. And then again, play with the spread. So it's very diffuse right now. We could try some sharper results. So 0.4, I kinda like that value. Move it a bit more in the back. Yeah, the shadows that is cast from this direction might be a bit too sharp. Okie dokie, that would work. I think we could lower the light closer to the ground though. Yeah, I kinda like how we get some nice lighting in the back of the crystals. Yeah, something around here, we get some pretty decent result, I think. It's not some Roger Deakins thing, but it's looking okay. So I had to relaunch the render view because looks like there was some color problem. So now we got both color inside. So now we got a proper display of the colors and can do some more changes from here. Maybe the blue light isn't intense enough. Probably could use some more saturation in its color as well. Yeah, see how sharper it looks when you reduce it? Well, in that case, back to 0.4. That's my magical number. Okay, let's say, yeah, definitely 0.4. Yeah, it's bringing some nice touch of blue inside the fibers. Could go even bluer. All right. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think we can start to create some basic shaders. So inside the shop, we're gonna create a redshift network, dive in it, and let's create a RS material. Okay, so this one's gonna be the crystal. Let's copy past that, and that would be the strands. That would be the fiber. That would be the rock, and finally the set. Then we need to assign those materials. So for the crystal, we're gonna go inside the crystal scattering context that we had and plug it after the switch. Okay. And grab the crystal. So now all the geometries of the crystals gonna get this material. So let's go back to the camera view. And for all the other objects, we can basically go into the render tab and apply the material from here. Okay. The rock base is gonna be with the rock. Okay, let's go back inside the shop, and we're gonna do some quick changes over these shaders. So some more roughness for the set so that it's not too reflective. For the crystal, we're gonna assign a bluish, greenish color. Then again, best way is still to Google fibrous malachite on, I don't know, Pinterest, Google Image, whatever you like, and use your best judgment to apply colors. I don't have any rights over my reference, so I'm just keeping it for myself. And the look can change quite a lot from one rock to another, to one photo to another, so that's up to you really. So for the fiber, I'm actually gonna apply a hair random color so that we get different results based on this color. It's kind of bluish color. And let's see, I think we are all set. Okay, let's render again. So the first thing it looks like, I forgot to assign the fiber shader to the fibers. So let's go back to object, and for the AirGen fibers, let's apply the material, which is fiber. All right. So probably have to restart the render. And yeah, it's working. It's much darker than I expected. So let's go inside the shop fibers and I'm gonna assign a brighter color. So I'm gonna apply the crop region and start to focus on this area. I'm gonna play with the value amount, and looks like it's not really randomizing anything right now, mostly because we may have missed one parameter. So inside the hair gen, inside the redshift tab, we have render polygon as hair. So we need to activate that so that it's considering these fibers as a hair. And in that case, the hair random color would work, I think. So let's try some more drastic results. Yeah, all right. See, now we can start to see some green blue variation. Well, it's really over the top, so I'm gonna reduce that. But you get the idea. Okay, I'm gonna adjust the light intensity, I think. And let's display everything. So the first thing for the crystal, we're not gonna go too much into detail. We're gonna assign the most basic parameter, so some refraction, so that the light is going through this geometry. And we're gonna assign a little color for the refraction so that it's not completely transparent. Could also play with the scatter scale of the subsurface so that we got some more kind of bounce transmission going on. All right, maybe let's go for something greener. And well, the strengths, I'm thinking something a bit bluer and a bit brighter. All right. So for the fibers, definitely going brighter, but not so saturated, I think. So actually, the refraction of the crystal might be too much. I'm gonna reduce that by 0.5. So at this point, the progressive render might be a bit too noisy, so I'd rather turn on the bucket rendering, which will do a more classic kind of render with buckets. And we will enable the crop region so that it's going a bit faster. So I'm speeding up the video so that it's not taking forever, like 1 hour, just to show you some tools. So inside the redshift settings, we're gonna increase the max samples so that it's getting less noisy. So it's definitely looking sharper, but we could go way higher. Like 120, we start to see some sharper fibers. So I'll talk a bit more about noise sampling and optimization at some point, probably in part 9. But in the meantime, that would be a decent quality so that we can keep walking. One thing is that we could save our picture if we want. So I'm just going to create a render folder and save that as Crystal A001. Okay, one thing though is like we could also use the snapshot option of the render view and store a snapshot using text snapshot. So that's a pretty handy way to look dev and compare things. I also like to use the take list, which allow us to create some different take for our scene. Like in that case, HDR lighting. So I'm going back into my main take and gonna create a RS light dome. Inside it, I'm gonna bring a HDR image I found on the HDRI Heaven. So like this one. Okay, so let's say that in the main take, we'd like to see the studio that we have. And in HDR lighting, we'd like just to see this HDR. So I'm gonna disable this light and the RS light here as well. And now we just have this one left, and we can change the rotation to find a proper angle for the light. So let's say that could be one of our take, and if we go back to the main one, we would have the studio. So I forgot to disable the light in here. And if you disable something in the main take, it's gonna be disabled in all the others unless you actually press the option you wanna enable. So in that case, it's now working with the edgier lighting take. Well, first let's take a snapshot. And if we try to go back to the main take, we have the studio lighting that we set up. So that can be a cool way to check out the look dev in different lighting conditions very quickly. And we'll have the snapshot to record all the different results we get. So from here, we'll have all the tools we need to start a proper look dev, improve the shaders with procedural texture, and refine the lighting.